Hi, you guys. I have been learning a lot of things about LLMs, AI in recent weeks, months now. LLM agents are pretty cool, and I just want to share. With you. Let's go. Maybe first of all, what am I talking about? What I'm talking about is when these chat engines actually go beyond simply extending, beyond extending the text and completing it, we're actually using some sort of tools. In this case, you see, it did not only understand my text, it understood what to search for, and then understood how to generate a good answer for me that I would understand into me. So that takes several operations, and simply querying OpenAI doesn't answer this. Didn't answer to me. I was curious. How do I actually? What's behind this? How do I do this? Now, the plugins came out, the ChatGPT plugins, and for example, here I asked it to make some šaltibarščiai for me, a pink soup, a pink Lithuanian soup. I love it. It had all the ingredients listed. That's something we expect by now. And then it asked me, do you want me to add this to Instacart? So that means it had to not only write the text, not only complete the text, but also it had to somehow convert it into machine readable, I guess, code, and just run something to ship it to Instacart so that I have the cart in my I have the items in my cart. So that was interesting. Again, I wanted to know how that works. Another thing I saw is LangChain. They've been working on this for a while now. And they introduced this concept called agents. So this is where how I'm using this word, and I don't know how much it's used elsewhere, but I think this is where it takes this pretty well, and that is agents. So for example, here you can see you simply ask it a question. It tries to understand what's in that question and what kind of tool it needs to pick up to answer your question. In this case, it needs to do search because it needs to find DiCaprio's girlfriend's name. So it does the search function and it finds the name. Sweet. Then it says, oh, I think that that's her name. And then it's like, what else am I missing? Oh, I still need to do some search. What's her age? That's her age. And now the final tool I actually picked up was a calculator. So it did some math operation here. So that's very interesting. I like this. They make it very easy to actually do this to you, but I wanted to see how it works behind the scenes, and hopefully you want to. And the last cool things that I've seen and has been blowing up in the last couple of days is this Auto-GPT, an autonomous GPT-4 experiment, where you simply define the name, the role of AI, and then you define its goals. So here you just say, hey, invent an original recipe for something for an Easter, and then describe multiple goals, and it just keeps on going until it actually finishes that task. That means it goes on, looks what kind of tools it needs to use, it picks up that tool, picks up the other tool, and until it completes its goal, and it keeps on evaluating whether it reached its goal or not. So it's very, very, very interesting. I just wanted to see at least the principle, and this is what I did. This is what I tried to do essentially. I did a little bit of a technical graph for you so that you get it. You're welcome. So what I built out is this. You come in with a question comes in. I asked the AI to say, what is this question about? So that I understand which functions to run. And I run those functions. The outcome of that is evaluated by AI again. And then if it's okay, then it's made readable and returned as the answer. So I think that's the sort of structure where this works. But again, this still doesn't feel that practical. But when you put it in code, actually, it becomes very clear. So first, the very basics. This is how you ask a question, not on ChatGPT, but with code. And that's extremely simple. You simply say for the system, you feed in the instructions, and for the user, you feed in the question. That's it. So you basically can do this. because we defined it as GPT-4, do it. The instruction is do, and the content, the user question is it, and it does not understand what I'm talking about. Very good. Good AI, good bot. We continue here. Let's define the instructions to make sure it really works. The instructions are helpful assistant. That's what usually you define it as. And question in this case, please give me 3 random names of a puppy. So we have some from my testing day times. So let's see what comes up now. Okay, actually came out with a very similar suggestions, but hey. So now we know how to ask GPT questions. We'll ask it to essentially improve itself, understand whether it's reached its goal or not. That's what we're going for. So now let's make it think. Let's do it. So first, let's define the tools. We want it to decide what tool to use. In this case, I thought it would be the most simple to say, here are 3 tools. One is addition, subtraction, and multiplication. And that requires 2 inputs each, so it's all very simple, but I wanted to see if at least this can work. And yeah, so we run it, we make sure it's defined. So now we have these functionalities, and if you know code, you know that this can be literally anything. And I think this principle would work on any kind of function any kind of tool that you build for AI to be able to use. Yeah, and here's how we actually instruct AI to say, hey, determine which tool do you need to use. This is exactly how it works. So as you saw in the instructions, right, we said here to be helpful. Instead, we can do some prompt engineering. So I guess this is where the prompt engineering comes in. You simply say, determine the appropriate category. It can only be one of those 3 based on the user input, and extract 2 numbers. Because we can only use 2 numbers. That's the limitation what we're playing with now. And then format the answer in a specific way. Provide JSON only, because this is what computers can understand. So that will feed that instruction to it. And now here's the question. Now we can just phrase this in any way we want. We say 2 times 7, right? And then let's see. Now you see I printed thinking, so it seems like it's actually thinking. That's very good. And it printed out. This is what it printed out. So now it printed out a machine readable piece of string in this case, but it's machine readable. And it knows that it's a multiplication. What if we just change, they took 5 apples from me. I had 10. How many do I have? Let's see. So now, if everything works correctly, it understood that this is subtraction, and it's, subtract from 10, it's 10 minus 5 essentially. Now it understands my request, and we can do it in many different ways, and it is strictly instructed to be adding everything in this way. Okay, that's great. So now, now that we have the answer, we want, when we actually print it, we want this to sound like it actually had some observation. So we simply said, instead of printing this out, while we were working on it, just tell us what the observation is in human words. And you see, we just said it basically used human words to describe what it found. So that's good. Now we run a simple essentially Python code to use this information to decide which tool to use. So in this case, we know that it has to be a subtraction, so we're gonna have to use this tool. And we run, and we run again. So this is where we're gonna run it. You see, so it was trying to find the matching operation. It found that it needs to be subtraction, and then it executed it, which is this, and it found the answer to be 5. So 10 minus 5 equals 5. So it got the answer, which is 5. That's great. So now we have the answer, but maybe we don't want to just respond with answer is 5. We actually want that to be more readable. So you see, you have found the answer on customer's question. Phrase it in a nice sentence. That's another piece of prompt engineering. we feed in the question that was originally asked, and we feed in this answer, which is 5. Yeah, please just make it nice, make it readable. So it actually will phrase it in a nice way, like we saw Bing do. You now have 3 apples remaining after the customer took 5 from your initial count of 10. See, so it phrased it according to the context. And now we had AI consult itself, look for tools, use those tools, and then rephrase the answer and just make it appear like, it's very smart. Now, once you understand how this works, you can extend it sort of infinitely, and you can make it not only just decide which code to run, but also just make up their own code and etc. and etc. etc. And you can also make it check did this actually answer all these questions. In this case, we only asked one question. But we could, have instructions saying, hey, the answer is 5, but what if there was an additional question there? Did you answer all those questions? And then, it can sort of detect like, yes, oh yeah, everything was answered, or no, it wasn't. And it all depends on how good you redesign this prompt. So you got to be good at English and talking to the computers, not necessarily in code. So let's try and see this. So I had an additional question added. It's gonna do the thinking. And here I strictly asked only to return this, you see? So there's no mention of Saturn in here. And that's a problem. The user expects all these questions, and it's just gonna go along, solve that problem that it can solve, which is just 5 apples and 10 apples. And it's gonna resolve that, gonna resolve this, and gonna find the answer, which is 5, so still nothing changed. And now, so now it's gonna, so now we have the answer 5, but the question is, did it actually answer all the questions? We can say, you have to make sure all the questions are already answered, and your question is this, and the answer that. Say either yes or no, and which questions were not answered. And you see, it says, yes, all questions are answered, so it seems like I phrased something incorrectly. Now let me just try and find a version where it actually works. So I rewrote this, making it a bit more explicit, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. But here I said, you have to make sure all customer questions are answered. At the beginning, I prefaced that, and then it actually understood that, hey, no, not all the questions are actually answered. We only answered the math question, but not really the Saturn question. But it's a whole another topic, the prompt engineering. But here you can see how we can make a seemingly thinking AI provided with tools, and it keep on going, becoming your personal agent. I think this is awesome. Hope you liked it. Bye.